Hello, welcome to today's show. It's a beautiful spring day, and you know what that means. We are in pollen season, and I've got a little something I want to show homeowners and property owners alike. I think you can benefit from this. First, I have to tell you, I am not currently licensed as an HVAC individual contractor, and this is just for entertainment purposes. It is not intended to instruct, and you shouldn't take it as advice. Now, we'll get rolling right on this just as soon as we get back from this word from my important sponsor. If you have real property to sell in the greater Murfreesboro, Rutherford County area, then call Dale to sell at Benchmark Realty, 615-409-SOLD. That's 7653 or 615-809-2323. You see this thing, right? You know what this is. This is a return air grill. Okay, it's RAG. Now it's also a filter grill. Not all return air grills are filter grills. Now this one has in it, if I flip it over, a 1-inch filter. It's just one of these standard type guys. You saw it on the back side. It's pretty simple, pretty easy. Now this one is a fairly high MERV for mechanical filtration. It's pretty good for that. The problem with MERVs are the higher you go in your MERV rating, the better filtering it does, but it does something kind of rough at the same time. What it will do is it will choke out your unit, or not necessarily choke it, but let's say it restricts the airflow, because the more difficult it is to pull air through, it changes your operation on your fan curve, and that can affect your unit. It can affect your pressures. It can make your unit run a little less efficiently, so you're running balancing the scales between trying to have clean air and also keeping some efficiency within your unit. Well, let me set this back here off to the side. Now, in this nice, beautiful little box are some air filters. How many of you might ask? Well, just 2 in this case. Now, these are special order, and here's where I'm going to get to the idea where this can help both the homeowner and the corporate investor, the investor who, or maybe the small guy who's got a couple of houses and he's doing some property management himself. Well, if you don't change out your filters, you can reduce the life and efficiency of your unit. Now, you may not care as much if you're renting it out what the efficiency of your units are on your rental properties, but a homeowner certainly would, and you don't want to end up having to replace a unit any sooner than you need to. Now, what we have here, if I remember correctly, is a Hart and Cooley. That's a brand name, Hart and Cooley. And this actually comes out of the commercial line. You see it's a little bit different. It's a little better made quality-wise than the punched louver, where it's just nothing but a sheet of painted metal where they hit it with the dies and it turns it down sharp edges. Don't let your kids put the fingers in the back of it or slice them type thing. So what we have behind this is much like you might expect. It has a filter. Okay? It's one of these filters. And it looks pretty well much like everybody else's filter, does it not? But the difference is this bad boy is 4 inches thick. And the purpose for that is, all right, being 4 inches thick, just like you have a Z shade along the wall where it accordions down, if you were to pull it straight, all taut so that it's a straight line, you're going to have a shade. The material is going to be longer than the opening. Well, that's what we have with the MERV. As we start to restrict the air further and further, it gets harder and harder to pull air through it. But being 4 inches thick, you see, we are accordioning, is that a word? Down a much bigger area. And so if we were to stretch this one out, we'd find out that it has much, much more opening, because air is going in and around the grooves. Now, the company, I buy mine, mail order them online, and they're not, actually I think it works out more economically to do this than to buy them locally. And if you have a property maintenance program, or you should have a property maintenance program, it's like the little reminder. The people that sell these to you will remind you when it's about time to buy some new ones. You may not need them quite that often, depending on your property. How is this kind of important to maybe the landlord? Well, quite honestly, most property maintenance, you have to make sure the filters are changed, because it's your air conditioning that's going to go out if it does. So, or they go out, you know, do the rent thing, the withhold. So you want to take care of that. Well, with this type of filter, this filter is not going to go in anybody else's houses. These are not widely adopted around. So that is a negative if you have to special order them, but it's also something you can plan around. And because these things last, this one, you'll notice the number of pleats this particular filter has. Well, this one they say is good for 6 months. Now, if you had dogs and a bunch of dogs and cats running around, it may not last as long. If you like your house cold in the winter and warm in the summer, so that when you go outside you don't get that thermal shock and, you know, it feels like it takes your breath away. It just makes winter colder to you and summer hotter to you if you keep your house cold and hot but in the wrong directions. So I don't run mine that much, and I've had them go a very long time. And you know, you open it up when the thermostat, my old thermostat would tell me, it'd come up so many runtime hours, it would come up and it would give me time to change the filter. And I'd open it, look at it, not dirty. So I'd put her back. Now, what are some of the indications you might be pulling too hard, or you might be pulling a little negative pressure? Well, one thing is pulling this, like, under the house smells into the building. If your return air ductwork between that and the unit is not real tight, and your filter is too restrictive, when the fan pulls, it will pull in as much air as it can from all directions, and if your ducts leak, it'll pull around that. So you might check inside of your cavity where it's coming up through the floor system to make sure all of that is siliconed up, sealed up nice and tightly. The stack, that's that little metal thing that leans up against the wall and back. You check it, make sure it's silicone around the floor and everything, so it's got no air leakage in it. But one of the things, if it's pulling too hard, you'll often hear that duct boom, kind of collapse on you and do a thud. That's the indication that it's a little too tight. Or if you hear your filter slap up against the grill inside, that might do it. Now, this particular unit, I did special order, I ordered it in advance, but it's the same size as the one I took out, except for it takes a 4-inch filter versus a 3-inch, or 3-inch or 2-inch or 1-inch filter. So your filters last longer. It gives it an equivalent more face to your grill, because you're actually pulling it through more material. They'll last longer. They also sell a cheaper filter, just like this one, except that it has a lot fewer pleats in it. You know, it has a lot fewer folds in it, and so there's less material, and it's going to fill up a little quicker, so you have to change it out a little quicker. So your mileage may vary. You may or may not like this idea, but if you do suffer from pollen and that sort of thing, or pet dander or whatever, the tendency is you might want to go to a high MERV, a MERV 13 filter or something like that, but that can be a little tough on the equipment. This is one way to kind of get around that, which is what I was doing. I mean, my house is a very dusty house. I can't figure out why. I put in this high efficiency filter, and lo and behold, it still got dusty at Christmas and the 4th of July. Maybe I have to dust more than twice a year, but you get the idea. A better filter will do that. It's not hard to do, assuming you don't have any wires that you have to move in the back, like thermostat wires, assuming they came up and around. It may just be pull it out, put the other one in straight up, and get you some 4-inch filters. I would make sure that I would check with my manufacturer and make sure that they actually get the physical dimension, because you want to know, sometimes these things are off a 1/4 of an inch depending on who you buy and where you buy them. They're kind of nominal, so you want to make sure that your filter actually will fit your grill and not be too tight nor too small. And I'd say give it maybe a 1/4 inch on each side, or total, kind of give it a little bit of slop. This one says it is a high capacity 20 by 25, and I think it gives the real dimension somewhere on this thing. The actual grill, although this is a 20 by 25 by 4, the actual size is 19.5 by 24.5 by 3 3/4. So it is made a little bit smaller than that. and we'll just put that bad boy back in there. And you might find, my fan just came on as I'm sitting here, you might find it actually operates a little quieter too, because there's not, if you ever hear a kind of a whistly sound, that's an indication you're pulling pretty hard against your size of return. So appreciate you watching. Come see me sometime. Follow me on the YouTube and all the other places where you might see them at the bottom of this video. We appreciate you. Have a great day. Have a great spring.